All right, I wanted to take a minute and step forward in time, or back in time, depending on the order you're watching these in. I want to talk a little bit about the bracing that I did when I first started this. And so this is the finished product with all the bracing removed and everything in place. What spurred this was I was watching Jonathan at Vinyl Village Garage, and he made a couple of comments about bracing that really struck home with me, and I got to thinking about how I described the bracing that I did previously on this body, and thought, man, I should go back and kind of do a lessons learned and bring up some of those points, because he's absolutely right. Especially with convertible, I'm a big proponent of bracing, getting everything where you know it's right. The biggest takeaway, however, is that you have to be sure it's right when you start. I was very lucky with this body. It was not bent. It was not twisted. So, you know, given how far I took this down, it was a situation where, you know, I felt very confident that my rockers were both in the same place. My windshield frame was straight and square. Even these pieces back here, the interior panels in through here that, you know, provide the support structure for the convertible, it's very important, right? You don't want those floating all over the place while you're starting to put in wheel tubs and floors and everything else. And as you can see, I had this stripped down pretty far. But I learned a couple of things, and a couple of things I would have done different had I had the chance, you know, knowing what I know now. One of the things is exactly what Jonathan brought up. Make sure that you have, you know, your body mounts and your frame mounts in known locations, but then take reference points on the front and rear of your rockers, at the heights of your panels here, your widths wherever you can, and, you know, make sure that it's at least the same on both sides. That's very important. And the other thing that you learn is some of the guys at GM, you know, the Fisher body guys, their idea of a good fit is not what you and I would have. You know, some of their stuff was plus or minus a half an inch. So, you know, but it also makes you respect the way this body is designed, because you could put it together plus or minus a half an inch and still have a drivable car. Not that we would do that in the restoration or reproduction era, but, you know, no way. But one of the things that I ran into, two things really, was the width of my rocker panels. Okay, when I went to put this floor in, my floor was about almost 1/4 of an inch narrower than my two rockers. So in the cross brace in the front and the cross brace in the rear, I really wish I had put some adjustability so I could move those rockers in and out 1/8 or so on both sides. You know, I don't know if that's, you know, putting a plate on or something that you can shim, or a telescoping strut in that bracing. But boy, my life would have been a lot easier if I could have drawn those rockers in that 1/8 inch on each side. Putting that floor on would have been a much, much easier job. You know, as it was, I had to take a porter power and go flange to flange and pull it. And, you know, I'm also, you know, forcing load into it as I was putting it together. So, you know, if I had had some adjustability on the bottoms so that I could pull that sucker in a little bit, that would have been great. I was very confident that the top was at the right width because it had the dash and everything was solid and, well, you know, relatively solid, and I knew that didn't splay in or out. So having the ability to move those rockers in and out a little bit would really, really help you, I think. The other thing, you know, that was kind of important, but, you know, remember, your first thing you're going to do is put your floor dependent on a floor jig or on a body jig, like that one up there, and you're going to start working off that. Then you're going to set whatever's left of your carcass back on that floor if you're going as far as I did anyway. So you know, you gotta pay homage to what was there, but you also got to worry about, you know, the new parts and having some adjustability so that they all come together properly. The other thing I ran into was the width in this surface here. I braced right in here over to my frame and did the same thing on the other side. But what I didn't know at the time, and this is exactly what Jonathan was getting at, was this was pushed down. And it was down a little bit. And what it did was that splayed out those two sides just a little bit. So as that went down, those pushed out. And that was a problem. I actually had to cut the braces off from there and let that come in about, I guess it was about 3/16 on each side. It was fairly uniform, but I had to bring those in 3/16 to get everything to go together on that deck filler panel. So, you know, that's the point exactly that I'm trying to make, is make sure what you have is right. See if you can find some reference measurements from point to point, like from here across and over here. And if, you know, if anybody needs that stuff, let me know. I'd be happy to put it on my frame dimension sheets. But, you know, knowing what even the cross measurement from this panel down to that corner and back is supposed to be gives you quite an opportunity to make it right. Then again, always give yourself some ability to adjust on it. Now, I wouldn't set it up so I could adjust the rockers up and down, because you know if they're the same on both sides, that's good. That's what you want. But the in and out, you know, the ability to play that way is a big deal. I didn't have that ability with my cross bracing, and I was close, so I lived with it. I just, you know, pulled the floor out thinking that I'm kind of flattening the tunnel a hair, but it worked. It worked fine. I mean, it's not that big a deal. But if I ever do this again, and I will do this again, I will make sure that whatever bracing I put across the bottom has the ability for some adjustment so that I can play that in and out. Because if you don't, you're just fighting everything else, and it just makes a lot of sense. And, you know, this came out exceptionally well. I'm very happy with it. Everything I measure is cross-dimensionally correct. I feel like I've got a very solid structure here, so I'm happy with that. And another thing not to sleep on is I've got this sitting on a body cart right now, and I put some little lift blocks right over the weld flange. Let's see if you can see that real well or not. But that weld flange down through the bottom, don't ever count on that being uniform, because it's not. Even from the factory, that was a slack take-up, for lack of a better word. There was, you know, about an inch of play there that they gave themselves, so that the floor where it mounts to the rocker and the inner and outer rocker came together. Gave themselves a lot of play there. So that is not a reference line. Do the tops and bottoms of the rockers, not that flange, ever. Then, once you get all your body mounts at the right locations, everything should come together pretty quick. Like I said, I was very happy with how this turned out, but had I not had a very straight car to begin with, I could have got myself into a nightmare. So again, I just wanted to come back and do a little lessons learned on that, just so that, you know, if somebody's going by what I did for bracing, they know where I ended up in areas that I would do different the next time. Again, not really, I didn't learn it the hard way. I was able to keep moving and do things right all the way through, but boy, I could see where I could have led somebody really astray there if their car was not straight to begin with. So again, just skipping ahead in time or back in time, depending, just so that you can kind of see the outcome of how I did the bracing and what the final product looked like. I'm going to put this back, I think, part 5A, just as a follow-up to that. But obviously, we're well beyond parts 5, 6, 7, and 8. But, you know, I just really wanted to make sure that it was known where I ended up and how I would do things different if I was starting this again. So, yeah, that's the long and the short of it. I know this was kind of a quick video, but I really just wanted to follow up on part 5 because I was very happy with the way my bracing came out. I was able to move this car around. I was able to put it on the body dolly. I was able to put it on on the lift and lower it down onto the floor that was set up on the floor, the frame jig. All of that worked out fantastic with the way I did it. But there's many other ways to do it. A lot of people don't use much bracing at all. Some people brace the hell out of it. Again, just make sure that if you do that, you have some adjustability in your bracing so that if you notice, oh crap, my floor is a 1/4 inch narrower than my rocker panel surfaces, just give yourself a little leeway there. Pull it in, let it do it. You know, it's no worse than what they did at the factory. I will guarantee you that. But having all that come back together, everything, you know, worked out good, especially where I picked up like strategic points for that. I put some plates there and bolted that brace to it, you know, the platform for where that brace goes. I know that is exactly back where it's supposed to be right now. You know, little things like that makes a lot of sense, but you know, to each his own. There's no right way, wrong way. There's all kinds of ways. So it's just the way I do things. Not the this isn't the Bible here. This isn't at the end of the day. So anyway, it's going to take a little bit more time. I'm still waiting on some parts here, so I just thought I'd come back and give a little recap of, you know, what worked good for me in the bracing and what did not. Hope this helps you out.